We bring him on in here. Good afternoon, Don. We thought we'd missed you there for a while.
Well, I've been just standing by waiting for your call.
Okay, well, we finally got through to you. Good to have you along on WHO Saturday Sports Line this afternoon. And we would tell people out there that Don is a Major League umpire from Waterloo, Iowa. He's been featured a couple of times in the Des Moines newspapers with what you're doing so far. I guess you're keeping up with what your daughter's doing in softball. How's she doing?
Well, she's not doing too badly. I have two of them that are playing softball, 112, 113, and they're doing quite well. You know, I enjoy going down there and watching them. They're still young and inexperienced, but that's how they learn.
Well, it's not as if you have to travel 70 or 80,000 miles a year, or however many miles you do travel in a Major League Baseball season. And you also, I guess, have to fight an urge to call the plays.
Well, you know, I really don't miss that urge of calling plays watching a softball game. I've only officiated baseball, professional baseball in my career. I've never started on a lower level. I went right to an umpire school down in Daytona Beach, Florida, and got into professional baseball in 1960. And so when I go out and watch a softball game, I really don't have much of an urge to call any plays. I do watch the umpires quite intently because I'm interested in umpiring. But they do a good job no matter what level they're on.
Don, this has to be a different kind of situation for you. Of course, you've been in the majors, and I forget exactly how many years, but it's been quite a while. And this has to be something different for you to be home this time of the year. How does it feel? Are you getting kind of itchy now? You'd rather be back on the field?
Well, I guess you might say I'm a little bit itchy. It is different. Right now I'm here in Iowa looking out of the window onto the Ponderosa Lake down by Montezuma, and it's the type of life that I've never really had a chance to enjoy. I came out of high school and went to college. Out of college, I went into service for 2 years, and from there I went to the umpire school, and I've been virtually umpiring ever since. 22 years I've been on the road in umpiring, the last 13 in the major leagues, and to be on a picnic or go down to the lake for a weekend and water ski and do those things that people do quite normally throughout the summer is a very great opportunity for me at this time to take advantage of. I really enjoy it. I hope it doesn't get to a point where I enjoy it so much I quit umpiring, but it is different. It's something that I haven't experienced, the likes of being home. I do get a 2-week vacation. I've been taking my vacations the past 2 years, and again this year in August. When you're home, that you don't get to do all the things you like to do, and now I'm really getting a chance to do them.
Don, I don't know if I don't remember having seen any official statement, but how do the umpires feel about the strike? I don't know. Do you have a leaning one way or the other, whether it be with the players or the owners, or how is the official stance of the umpires on this thing?
Well, the umpires, had a confrontation 2 years ago with management. We are a bargaining unit. One might call it a union. We're an association chartered. We are recognized by the National Labor Relations Board, such as the players. We're more or less in the same boat. Now, when we went through it, we fought management. Now the players are fighting with management. If I were to take a side, I would have to agree with the players. I feel very strongly about what the players are fighting for. It's something they've had. It's something they've won in negotiations previously. So here we are in a situation where the owners want something back that they've given the players a few years back.
I'm not really surprised to feel that way, Don, because the umpires a couple of weeks ago tried to file suit to prevent the owners from gaining strike insurance. And if that suit were successful, theoretically, the owners would not have that money and they would be more willing to settle the strike. So it seems to me that you are really coming out on the players' side.
Well, that particular cause was twofold as far as I was concerned. I was in touch with Richie Phillips, our lawyer out of Philadelphia at the time, and we felt like because of our contract that we have with management, that they're only going to pay us for 30 days, that if the owners would not bargain in this negotiation in true faith and get the thing settled, then there's a great chance it'll go beyond the pay period that we're covered for, and then consequently we'll be without an income. That was one reason, and then I know the other reason had to be that without a contract ourselves. And because we file that on behalf of the Players Association and the Umpires Association, that maybe next year we might have to ask the Players Association for some help in our negotiations.
So baseball's labor troubles appear not to be over. At this point, very early in the negotiating process, how do the umpires and management face each other across the bargaining table? Are the differences as wide between the umpires and owners as they seem to be between the players and owners?
No, they're really not. And, of course, I've always said that probably about the only way that you can really take care of an umpire is to pay him well. And whereas they have other problems, this one being the free agent compensation, we cannot play out our option and go to another league. We really haven't any place to go, such as the players. So I wouldn't say our gap is near as wide, and I think it even become much closer in the past month when, for years, the owners have pleaded poverty and that they couldn't afford the high salaries, they couldn't afford to pay the umpires, they couldn't afford this. But when they got a ruling out of the National Labor Relations Board, the Players Association did, saying, well, if you are broke and you do not have the money and you cannot afford to pay us, let us look at your books. You prove to us that there is a need to hold down salaries, that you need compensation, then we will consider giving you back your compensation or giving you compensation for a free agent. And immediately on the ruling out of New York, or in New York, when William Luber took him into court in Rochester, the owners came out and said, no, you misunderstood us. It's not a case of not having money enough to pay these large salaries or pay the umpires. Our problem is we want equality. We want team equality in the different divisions, and that's really the reason we want compensation. Well, for all these years, they told us they didn't have any money. So I think that's really narrowed the gap between umpires and management. If they have money, then I guess they can afford to pay us.
Well, that's been part of the problem. You mentioned in an article that I'm taking a peek at right now, you say you don't feel sorry for the players, and then it also quotes you in the article as having said that that they really don't, they never did really open up the books, the financial books. And I wonder, I've had it mentioned to me when I've mentioned this to other people, that no business really opens up the book when it comes to showing, their employees, where they stand monetarily and financially. It just doesn't happen very much, and I guess the owners are probably saying, well, why should we have to do that?
Well, I can agree with the owners. I think, that you're dealing with a situation where there ought to be, in the democracy that we live in, a little bit of privacy and your own domain and to take care of your own. We can only really go on by what they say, but the thing that seems to really baffle me is that for years they said they didn't have the money, and then all of a sudden when they got a ruling they said, well, let's look at the books. I think it's an invasion of privacy, without question, but they did get a ruling that said, well, look at the books if you say you're broke. And all just immediately they came out with a statement, no, we're not broke. Bowie Kuhn made the statement, if baseball is going to survive, there should be an oil well at second base. It better spring sooner. We're not going to make it. He backtracked on that statement at that hearing in New York, saying, that isn't our problem. Our problem is equality, division equality, team equality. We want these teams to be competitive right down the line because that makes for better races, and that's the only reason we want compensation for a lost ball player in the free agent draft.
Don, I take it that the Major League Umpires Association feels it's not getting the support of management not only in that area that you're talking about right there as far as just compensation goes, but also in the issue of authority over the game. And I'm talking specifically about the incident which took place back on May the 29th in Toronto, Canada, in which umpire Terry Cooney had some rough stuff applied to him by Billy Martin. And you don't think, I take it, that the penalties on Martin were adequate for what he did to Cooney?
No, I believe they were absolutely, positively inadequate from an umpire standpoint and for the good of baseball. I just think it was one of the worst things I've seen on the baseball field where a manager can come out and misuse, knock down or try to knock down, deliberately pick up sand and throw at a man, dirt, what have you. I think it was totally inexcusable, and I think the penalty that was leveled was just ridiculous. The man should have been out without question 30 days and $10,000 fine, but yet they fined him $1,000 and gave him a 7-day suspension. And then, to just muddy the waters, when Mr. Cooney was to go into Oakland to work the Oakland series, Billy Martin said he didn't want him in there, and the league made an attempt to keep Terry Cooney from working in a ball game in Oakland, of which the Major League Umpires Association took offense to and did some maneuvering of their own and changed the schedules of some umpires against the league's directive, and we were assessed a fine, a penalty for it. Whether we'll pay it or not, we'll probably have to go to litigation before it'll be settled.
Don, it's 29 minutes past 3 o'clock on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Don Denkinger on the line, the American League umpire, who, of course, taking an unexpected break this time of the year with the baseball strike. We will check into Iowa sports headlines. We'll be back with Don after these words.
This is Gene King for your Better Business Bureau. Check your tire pressure regularly. It'll save you gas if your tires are properly inflated, and it's safer, too. A tip from your Better Business Bureau.
This is WHO Saturday Sports Line. Standing by, our producer Dave Braga with a look at Iowa sports.
Thank you very much, Mike. Well, Jim Duncan, the voice of the Drake Relays for the past 20 years, will be honored at a dinner July 18th at the Hotel Savory here in the capital city. Duncan, who retired this year after teaching for 31 years at the Drake University School of Journalism, will continue as the Relay's public address announcer. 34-year-old John Benda of Humboldt is leaving for Great Britain Monday to play in the British Open Golf Tournament. The tournament there is July 16th through the 19th. Benda, who plays on the Asian PGA Tour, will also represent the Asian PGA at the World PGA Conference. That's scheduled in Great Britain before the British Open. Benda was the first Iowan to play in the tournament last year. He failed to make the final cut. Mike Okerman, a 3-event gold medalist at the Nebraska State High School track and field championships this year, has signed a national letter of intent with Drake University. Bulldog coach Bob Earhart says Okerman of Bellevue, Nebraska, won the 100, 200, and 400-meter dashes. Drake University wrestling coach Lonnie Timmerman says 7 Iowa high school wrestlers and 4 out-of-state athletes have signed national letters of intent with the Bulldogs. The Iowa signees are Don Majewski of Waterloo, Bob Harris and John Patterson of Southeast Polk, Matt Lingahan of Ankeny, Terry Cooper of Creston, Rick Rom of Mediapolis, and Tom Small of Stuart Menlo. Well, rain around the state didn't stop Midwest League teams from playing baseball last night, and they shouldn't tonight either. Games tonight include Appleton at Waterloo, Wausau at Wisconsin Rapids, Clinton at Burlington, and Quad Cities at Cedar Rapids. Later this afternoon at about 4:45, we'll be talking with Mike Henderson of the Girls High School Athletic Association here in the Hawkeye State, and we'll talk to him about girls sports. And this afternoon at 3:45, we'll be talking tennis with John Douglas. That's all here for you on WHO Saturday Sports Line.
WHO AccuWeather.
For Iowa, mostly sunny across the north this afternoon, intervals of clouds and sunshine in central sections. There could be a passing thunder shower later this afternoon. Meanwhile, across the south, clouds will give way to some sunshine. It will continue raining in the extreme southeast until about 4 o'clock this afternoon, about a half hour away. Highs ranging from 77 southeast to near 80 in the north. Clear to partly cloudy tonight, lows 59 northwest, 69 southeast. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and comfortable, highs ranging from 82 in the north to 88 in the south. And looking ahead to Monday, partly sunny and warm, highs ranging from 82 in the north to 90 down in the southwest portion of the state.
The AccuWeather forecast for Des Moines and central Iowa, clouds to give way to sunshine this afternoon, with a few spots experiencing a thunder shower toward evening. High today 82 degrees. Partly cloudy, a bit more comfortable tonight, a low of 65. For tomorrow, mostly sunny, continued nice, a high of around 85. And on Monday, much the same, partly sunny and warm with a high of 87. Currently in Des Moines, we have an easterly wind at 12 miles per hour. The relative humidity, 65%. The barometer is on the rise, 29.90 inches of mercury. Currently in the Iowa's capital city, we have 80 degrees. We'll be back with Don Denkinger. We're taking your calls on the subject of baseball at 282-5111 or 1-800-532-1111.
We're all working women, and that's the title of a new show beginning Saturday morning, July 11th at 8:15 here on WHO. We're All Working Women will look at all aspects of a working woman's life, whether you're working on the farm, working in the home, working in an office, or all of the above. You know, we really have a lot to learn from each other. After all, we're all working women. I'm Julie Gamick. I'll be hosting this show starting Saturday morning at 8:15, July 11th, just before WHO Talk Radio.
26 minutes before 4 o'clock on the line, American League umpire Don Denkinger. And, Don, we were talking about violence and the way the umpire and the manager situation. Isn't this something that's been leading up to for a long time? Because umpires in this country have been able to get away with murder. In Japan, they don't do the kind of things. They have to be very respectful. But here in this country, you've got an Earl Weaver who kicks dirt on an umpire. You've got Billy Martin, and this isn't new for Billy. Billy's been doing these kind of things. You get a situation where an umpire goes jaw to jaw, nose to nose, and eye to eye, arguing over a call. You would just kind of think this, the kind of thing that happened with Billy Martin and Terry Cooney was destined to happen.
Well, it gets progressively worse. I think it has over the years, and I think there has to become a time when they really put a halt to it. I want to just refer to the first statement that you made that it's different in Japan. I was fortunate to be over there in February to work with some of their Major League umpires, and it may behoove you to know that they're having many, many problems over there, umpire-ball-player relations. They've had some incidents where arguments have lasted half hour, and one occasion an umpire told me he had an argument that lasted an hour and 15 minutes. And I said, you couldn't possibly let an argument go that long. And he said, Don, what could I do? And just because of the inexperience, not having that experience that the umpires have had in America, that I said, well, you have to start throwing ball players out. You have to eject them, and they don't find that they have. We didn't find that they have a lot of ejections over there. They try to keep in the ball game at all expenses, and they're having their own problems over there, just from lack of experience. Now, to go back to the problem that we have here in the United States and in the major leagues, I think part of our problem is management, because management hasn't gone out to eliminate our problem, our arguments, our Earl Weavers, our Billy Martins, because they haven't penalized them to a point where they would think before they would do it again. And the reason that they haven't, I believe, is because they create a lot of fan excitement in these arguments. So we're usually used to draw people to the ballpark. How much they're going to use us to do this is something for us to wait and see, how bad it's going to get. I think somewhere along the line, some manager is going to approach an umpire, bump him, kick him, do something, and the umpire is just going to level him. And I would hate to see this happen, but I really believe that's the direction we're going in. Now you see that we have filed a assault charge up in Toronto, or Terry Cooney had filed it, but on behalf of the Major League umpires, we have backed him 100%. We have written a judge up there out of the Major League Umpires Association that he give the sternest penalty that he could possibly give to Billy Martin for the incident that happened in Toronto.
Don, quickly, if I could break in here, just how much in damages are you asking for in that suit?
We're just asking for him to be penalized to the full extent of the law, and that would be just a fine. We're not really we're not suing him or anything else. We're just asking them whatever their assault. And I really can't tell you the nominal prices that they have for assault charges up there and what the penalties. I guess there is a possibility he'd be put in jail.
Aren't there really two suits going on here, Don? One filed by Cooney, the other one filed by Richie Phillips?
No. There's one filed by Terry Cooney, and then the Major League umpires, through Richie Phillips, have written the judge that's going to handle it, and they've asked for the maximum penalty on behalf of the Major League Umpires Association.
Do you think maybe management, even, going up to the commissioner, the reason there aren't these stricter penalties, as you mentioned, maybe they could suspend someone for a year like a Billy Martin? You think they're afraid because they don't want to keep all the personalities in baseball? For instance, Oakland, one of the main attractions when you see the Oakland A's is Billy Martin. One of the attractions when you see the Baltimore Orioles, are the antics of Earl Weaver. Maybe they just want to keep these people in the game, and maybe that's the reason, because for the fact there are not stricter penalties.
Well, I really believe that. But how much you're going to let them get away with before you you penalize them to the point where they may not want to do it again? I think you've got to stop it. I really am. I feel remorseful because of what image it creates for the younger people of America when they sit and watch TV and see Billy Martin literally trying to knock down an umpire and kick dirt and pick up dirt and throw it, and Earl Weaver's tactics, or even Gene Michaels with the New York Yankees, where he took his jacket and threw it as high. as he could. I really think it creates a very, very poor image for the game of baseball to see these things happen. Well, they see them happen, and then they use them themselves. They think that is the way the game is to be played, and I really don't believe it is.
Don Denkinger is our guest here on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Numbers to call, 319, or rather, area code 515-282-5111. And the toll-free Watts line is 1-800-532-1111. Don is a Major League umpire in the American League, and a couple of years ago, Don, when the umpires were having their labor troubles, some of these inexperienced umpires were brought up from the lower leagues and placed in Major League Baseball to umpire and make the decisions on the bases, and there was a lot of resentment. I'd like a little bit of an update now from you, Don, on just how the experienced umpires are getting along with the inexperienced umpires, the younger ones that were brought up on their own.
Okay, well, you're speaking of the younger umpires as what we termed as the scabs that worked while we were on strike.
That's right. I was going to say it, but I'll let you say it.
2 years ago. We still have 7 of the 8 that they hired. There are 4 in the National League and only 3 in the American League. And I guess all I can really say on the matter is that in our agreement with Major League Baseball, they promised us that they would have the best umpires in the big leagues. And for those that don't understand, that baseball asked 9 of the top 10 umpires in the minor leagues to come up and take our place, and all 9 of 10 turned them down. 1 gentleman accepted it. Then they went lower than that and found 7 other umpires. So consequently, they have what we consider 7 umpires in the big leagues that have where we have 9 better than them in the minor leagues. And our contention is they're going to have the best up here, then the original 9 that they asked should be here before the 7 are.
How much do you think baseball umpiring has suffered because of the inclusion of those inexperienced umpires into the game?
I think it has suffered to a point where there are more capable officials in the minor leagues than what we have in the big leagues. Now, how to measure that would be almost impossible or impossible.
Well, give me an incident.
Well, you have a case where umpiring is all based on consistency. And if you don't have consistency on the field, because an umpire isn't consistent, because he just can't handle the job to the point of proficiency that he should be able to, or there's somebody in the lower minors that are more proficient, then he shouldn't be there. And I'm not going to single out any instance where one man's had a problem here or there, because we all have problems. Excuse me, it's just that these people were rated on their proficiency before that strike, and 9 of them were rated higher than the 7 that they brought up.
Do you ever dress in the same locker room with some of these umpires, the ones that were brought up from the lower leagues?
I most certainly do dress in the same locker room, and I walk on the same baseball field with them, and I umpire with them.
Do you talk to them?
I talk to them on the baseball field, and I talk to them in the dressing room, and I will talk to them off the field or out of the ballpark only about the job of umpiring, and the questions that they may ask I will answer. I do not spend time with them off the field to go and eat. I will not go back and forth to the ballpark with them. I will not literally associate with them whatsoever, because I don't feel that they really needed me when we were on strike and not making any salary 2 years ago to find their way to the ballpark or to find restaurants for them or to converse with them. So I guess that you really don't need me now.
Well, but they were looking out for their own livelihood at that time, and
Well, so was Don.
well, that's absolutely true. But then, then again, maybe they were starting out, talking about the newer umpires were starting out, and maybe they just feel that they had to do something for their families. So, some of the players now are striking. I'm sure some of the players would just as soon not be striking because they need the money.
That's true. And I can honestly say that probably the 7 umpires that came up out of the 8, maybe 6, let's just say 5 or 6 would have never ever got to the big leagues. So it was an opportunity for them that they accepted and ran with, and that's fine. But then don't make me be their friend, because they befriended me when they went to work and took that job, and I was out trying to improve the benefits of umpiring in the major leagues.
We have a call for you on the line, Don. Go ahead. You're with Don Denkinger on Saturday Sports Line.
Howdy. It seems to me as though Major League Baseball doesn't follow the rule books. And I think in order to play it truly, they either should change the rule or follow the rule book.
I got to ask you what rule you're referring to.
Well, the strike zone, for instance. The strike zone in Major League Baseball is the top of the belt buckle to the knees, and that's not what the rule book says.
No, that's very true. The rule book says the armpits
Right.
of a natural stance, batting stance, or natural swing.
And you get a ball around the letters, why they say way out, way high.
Yeah, that's true. You know, and a man asked me one time, he said, what is your strike zone? And that was really a difficult question for me to answer because my strike zone is something that is very natural for me. I went into professional baseball out of the umpire school and never have ever worked a baseball game on an amateur level or a professional, so I really didn't know what a strike zone was. I quickly found out what strike zone it was when I called a pitch that was up about the letters and they screamed and yelled at me that it was too high, and those that I called that were too low and they screamed and yelled. You know, we're all a human, and we come to a point where we find a happy medium where they're not going to scream and yell at you anymore.
Well,
and then consequently you find out that's what the strike zone is for professional baseball.
Thank you very
why
much
not
for-
rewrite the rule book.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of rules in there that contradict themselves. It also says that the coach should be in the coach's box, but I'll tell you what, I'm not a traffic policeman out there or a man giving out summonses or tickets because someone's done something wrong. If a man isn't going to stand in the coach's box, that's entirely up to him. I will leave him exactly where he is until someone comes to me and says, put him in the coach's box. And then I will immediately put him in there because the rule says he has to be in there. But I can't go around and police that baseball game up from opening pitch to the ninth inning. I've got other things that are much more important than that.
Thank you very much for calling. We have to go to the AP Sports Summer. We'll be back with Don Denkinger after that.
Mike Lee along with Larry Cutler, technical director Tom Days, producer David Braga, talking with Don Denkinger, a Major League umpire in the American League on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Let's get to the phones. Good afternoon.
Yes, my question is, Don, isn't there qualifications of being an umpire? You have to be at least 5'8" and be an umpire?
No. They did have some requirements originally, or not originally, but when the original schools took all students down there, and anybody that was accepted into the school could qualify if they were hired by a major or minor league president. Then the Major League Baseball through the minor leagues and the umpire development come up with a school that put some height requirements and some weight requirements out for that particular school. That school lasted about 3 years, I believe, and then it was sold to a private individual who lifted all those requirements, and anybody could go and anybody could be hired if they qualified as far as that president for that minor league was concerned.
Let me ask you one more quick question. What are the chances for a person getting into the profession, and what are the chances of making the major leagues right now, or are umpires a dime a dozen right now?
Well, I guess umpires were a dime a dozen in 1960 when I went to the umpire school. There were 85 of us at the umpire school. 13 of us got a job. Now, every year they train anywhere from 400 to 500 students at 3 different umpire schools. They do have an advanced camp. Out of that, maybe 13 or 14 of them get to the minor leagues, and out of that, it's just a rarity where maybe 1 out of 13 would ever get to the big leagues. And the problem is that there are 60 umpires in the National American League, and the jobs are there and are held by umpires who have got there at a young age, and so consequently, a lot of them stay there, or they try to stay there until they're 55, and that's mandatory retirement for us. So there isn't a great turnover in the big leagues. There isn't any openings, and that's really where the problem came in. We did create some new jobs when we got our vacation 2 years ago. It enabled each league to come up with 4 new umpires, and those just happened to be the umpires that worked when we were on strike. But it did create 4 more jobs.
By the way, you're a very good umpire, too.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you very much for the call on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Don Denkinger, thank you very much for being our guest on this 4th of July weekend. We appreciate the fact that you gave of your time to be with us on WHO Saturday Sports Line. And hope the baseball strike ends so you can go back to work.
Well, I think it will very soon. I enjoyed being on your program, and you fellows do an excellent job, and I'll be looking forward to be on again sometime in the near future.
Thank you very much, Don. Stay tuned now on WHO Saturday Sports Line for some important words and then a talk with Rod Davis of the Echo Valley Tennis Association for tennis triples. That's right, tennis triples. Stay with us.